One of the most important items that we have in the management or project management is stakeholder management and how to set the prioritization for the stakeholder management. In the diagram that we have in front of us, we have kind of quadrilateral or four items diagram showing us the high power or low power to the left on the vertical axis, and on the horizontal axis we have low and high interest. This is one of the methods how to manage the stakeholders. We don't need to lose any of the stakeholders, but however, always we have to set our prioritization for the management. Whatever we are talking about money, we are talking about stakeholders, we are talking about resources. So in this case, we are talking about the prioritization of the stakeholders. We have key persons or key players who are having high power and high interest. They are participating in the project maybe on daily basis, and they have influence, they have authority to make decision over the project. So these are the managers that we have, the managers of the in our construction industry, the manager of the owner company, the manager of the contractor company, the manager of the engineering company, and so on. Those key players are the most important that we have to be in contact with them almost every day, if not each hour. On the other side, we have important key persons who have high power but low interest. Low interest, that does not mean that they are not interested in the project, but they are busy with other things. So they are participating in multiple projects. So their time contribution for this project is not like 8 hours a day over 5 days a week. They participate based on needed base. So in this case, we have to consider their requirements. We have to be in communication or continual communication with them. But this communication is not as frequent as that with the key players that we mentioned. Those have high level of interest in the red zone. If we go down for the people with low power, but they are having high interest, like most of the people who are working in the project itself, whether they are working in the management team or other technical teams, those players must be informed about the tasks that they have to complete today or this week or within a few days. So those people must be contacted almost every day as well, maybe in the morning and again in the afternoon. In the morning to check what they have to do that day, and in the afternoon to check what they have completed on that day. The fourth quarter that we have here, the people who have low power and low interest. So that's most of the people, other stakeholders that we have in the project. That does not mean that we don't have to communicate with those people, but we don't have to set them at a high priority with respect to other types that we have mentioned in the other three quarters that we have in the diagram. One of the most areas that have high effect or impact on the risk that we have in any project is the communication. Most of the problems that we have in the projects, most of the issues that we have is based on loss of communication or losing communication or poor communication that we have. So what are the means that we have for communication? One of the most items controlling the mean is the technology that we have. It is depending on the ability of the people who are working, depends on the technology available actually in the project, depends on the team who are working in the project and their capabilities. They have to be able to use the communication mean or the communication technology that we are planning to be used in the project. Duration of the project. If the project is too short, in this case, we have to use very fast communication mean. We cannot rely on people to deliver messages or envelopes or the drawings. In this case, we have to use the new technology, the high-speed technology that we have in order to complete the project as fast as possible. The project environment, what are the requirements? Are there many stakeholders in the project? Where are the owner? Where is the contractor headquarters? Where is the engineer headquarters? Are we talking about people, all of them from the same city, or we are talking about people from different countries? All of those items contribute to what is meant by the project environment. So we have to consider the environment of the project, the people who are working, the requirements needed in the project, and as well as the type of the project itself. One of the most important items as well that might lead to big risk in the project work performance information. This is one of the deliverables of the performance, or actually the plan that we have and the update that we have of the plan. So in this case, this is the schedule or the bar chart that we have for the project or for part of the project. This is one of the most important means that we use usually to plan and to track the activities that we have in the project. Actually, measuring and tracking the activities and the performance of the project is very important in order to control, in order to reduce and mitigate the risks that we have to control. And in order to control, we have to measure. And we must have key performance indicators to define what is the performance level that we have. Is that matching with the requirements? Is that below the requirements? Is it higher than the requirements? All of that must be completed through measurement of the performance measurements. And then reporting the performance. We have to consider the format of the report, the content of the report, the description of the content of the report data that we have in the project, the details level that we have in the project, and so on. We might have kind of variance analysis, the difference between the actual and the planned forecast method. We have to forecast the expected total duration of the project. We have to forecast the total budget, updated budget of the project, and the needed resources based on the actual performance and based on the actual completed work, and so on. The communication methods, as we have mentioned in the previous slides. Reporting system. Reporting system includes the data included, the distribution of the report. The report might be in hard copy, might be electronic, might be in presentation. What are the content of the report? Who is this submitted to? Is it to the high management level, the medium management level? So we have to consider the reporting system and who is preparing and who is going to prepare that report, and what are the type of the report. Is it a status report? Is it as needed report? Is it a performance report? All of those are different types of reports that control the details of the project and the submittals and the distribution of the reports as well. One of the most important, if not the most important, actually, performance level or performance measurement is the baseline that we have. This is the common baseline that we have, which is called usually the S curve that we have in blue. And this is actually the cost of the project based on time intervals. So the cost on the vertical axis and the time on the horizontal axis, and the S curve that we have, or the blue curve, that's called S curve, or the planned cost that we have. This is the accumulated cost that should be spent over a specific time or period of time. What we have in green here, the green curve, is the actual cost. So the actual cost, what actually have been spent as cost, including expenditures and indirect expenditures as well. So that's constitute the total cost of items completed or partial items completed up to the data date of this report. On the other side, we have the red curve that we have here, and the red curve shows the earned value. The earned value is the planned cost for the items that have been completed already up to the data date. Again, this is the planned costs for the items already completed for the data date. So we have three values with the intersection of the data date that we have, which is described here as now. The blue intersection, the blue curve with the vertical line of now. So this is the planned value that should have been spent up to data date. And the green intersection with the now line, which is the actual cost we have incurred up to the data date. And the red curve intersection with the now line is the earned value, which is the planned cost of the items and partial items completed up to data date of the report. And these are some measurements for the cost and schedule performance for the project. Cost variance, which is the difference between earned value and actual cost, as have been described on the previous slide and the previous S-curve chart. Cost performance index, which is the relationship between the earned value and the actual cost. Schedule variance, which is the difference between the earned value and the planned value. And the fourth is the schedule performance index, which is the relationship between earned value and planned value, or actually the earned value divided by the planned value. Cost variance and schedule variance should be positive value. That means earned value higher than the actual cost for cost variance, or earned value higher than planned value for schedule variance. If they are positive values, that means we are going better than the plan, which is a rare case. If this value, cost variance, is zero, that means that the earned value is exactly the same as the actual cost, that we are going just exactly on the curve for the cost, and the same for the schedule variance. If the schedule variance is zero, that means that the schedule timing that we have for the project is going perfect. If the value of cost variance is less than zero, that means earned value is less than the actual cost, so we have kind of over budget expenditures. The same if the schedule variance less than zero, that means earned value is less than planned value, that we are behind schedule. The same could be mentioned for the cost performance index and schedule performance index. These two must be over the value of 1. If they are over 1, that means we are going well, whether for the cost or for the schedule. If these are exactly 1, so we are going perfectly as the plan. If the cost performance index is less than 1, that means earned value less than actual cost, again, we are over budget. If the schedule performance index is less than 1, that means earned value less than planned value. So in this case, we are behind schedule, and we have to find how can we catch up with the total duration required for the project. Again, this is the same S-curve. In this case, we have that in dark red. This is the original one in dark red, and the green one showing the earned value. That's right, the actual cost, I'm sorry. The green one is the actual cost, and the blue one is the earned value that we have. We can see that the earned value, the blue one, is lower than the red one. That means that we have kind of delay. That's why the expected duration is longer than the planned duration. We can see that difference up to the right. So the blue curve, the extended dashed blue curve, is going a little bit more duration, or having more duration more than the red one. The same for the actual cost. We can see that the green one going higher at the end of the project, going higher than the red curve. That means we have to spend more on the project. We have kind of MR area that's shaded in green, the management reserve. Usually the management reserve is not included in the S-curve. This is a contingency that we have to consider with the authority of the top management that we have in the project. So that's another contingency that to be considered out of the S-curve that we have. This is tabulation form for the data that we have been discussing over the previous slides, showing the planned budget, earned value, cost, actual cost, cost variance, schedule variance, cost performance index, and schedule performance index for some categories and for the total of the project. This last slide that we are going to discuss in this lecture, which is the forecast for the estimate. The estimate at completion equals the actual cost plus budget at completion, which is the original budget that we have, minus the earned value. So this is the estimate at completion. So actually we have the original budget and then add the actual cost minus the earned value. So if the actual cost higher than the earned values, that means we are spending more than the plan. In this case, we have to add this difference to the original budget. That means the estimate at completion will be higher than the original budget that we have. The estimate to complete, which is the money required to cover the cost from now up to the end of the project, in this scenario will be the original budget minus the earned value. So it depends if we are going overrun or underrun with the project. The second scenario that we have here is the estimate at completion equals the actual cost plus budget minus earned value, and the budget minus earned value is divided by the cost performance index. The budget minus the earned value, which is the remaining work, is divided by the cost performance index. That means we are going to have kind of increase in the cost as well for the remainder of the work. In this case, the estimate to complete the remaining required cost for the project will be the budget minus the earned value, the remaining work, divided by the cost performance index. Whatever the cost performance index up to now is positive, higher than 1 or lower than 1. The third scenario, the estimate at completion equals the actual cost plus bracket between brackets budget minus earned value and divided by the cost performance index. This is exactly as the second scenario, but in this case we have to divide this by the schedule performance index. We divide by a schedule performance index in order to consider the difference or the variability in the schedule performance as well. So if we are behind schedule, we have to consider some costs for the crashing of the activities in order to compensate for the delay that we have in the project. In this third scenario, again, the estimate to completion will be the budget minus earned value between brackets divided by the cost performance index divided by the schedule performance index. And up to this slide, I'm going to stop with this lecture. Thank you.